Welcome back to my channel. I'm Maggie Ostara, and I'm a human design expert and the creator of the 8 Pillars of Feminine Sovereignty. Today, we're going to dive into the transit of the sun and the earth in the human design system that begins on Tuesday, July 30th. So let's go ahead and dive in. Just as a reminder, the transit that we are just moving out of was largely in the sensing circuit and the logic circuit. We had the gate 31 being highlighted by the sun, which is in the logic circuit. And we had the gate 41, which is imagination, which is in the sensing circuit. And those are all collective circuitry. So we had a lot of emphasis on kind of the way that we think about big things, how we engage with big things. Collective circuitry is kind of where all the tribes come together, which is why we think of it as like institutions and governments, multinational corporations, international organizations, the UN, things like that are big collective circuitry. And so as we move during this transit, we're going to bring some collective circuitry with us. But we are also going to be bringing in some tribal circuitry. So the sun is going to move into the gate 33 and the earth is going to move into the gate 19. So let's take a look at the gate 33 to begin with. So the gate 33 is in the sensing circuit. It's over here on the throat, and it's known as privacy in traditional human design or retelling in quantum human design. This is one of the 3 storytelling gates in the human design system. All 3 of those storytelling gates are in the sensing circuit, which makes sense. The sensing circuit is right brain energy. It's creative, it's expansive, it's experiential, and it's embodied. And so storytelling really kind of includes all of those pieces, right? It's very creative. It's often intuitive. And it also is, good storytelling is embodied, right? And it comes out of experience. And so we're being invited to take a look at what are the stories that we're telling right now. So this is collective circuitry. It's in the sensing circuit. And so it's going to influence you individually. Right? What are the stories that you're telling yourself? And do you need to retell some stories? Do you need to upgrade your stories in some way? And it's also collective, right? Because it's collective circuitry. So what are the stories that we're telling ourselves? What are the stories we live inside of? And are there stories that need to be retold so that they are more beneficial? This was a big part of what I did in my book here, Feminine Sovereignty, 8 Pillars for Regenerating Ourselves and Our World. I have this particular gate defined in my chart. It's the only gate I have in the sensing circuit that's defined in my chart. But one of the things that I've been about pretty much my whole adult life really is about how do we retell stories of the past so that they're more accurate and they're more beneficial and they're more empowering for the present. And I know in my scholarly work, this is one of the things I did as I was really looking at power relationships in the US in the 19th century, particularly looking at the ways that people who had been enslaved or had otherwise been suppressed or discriminated against were retelling stories from the mainstream, which is where, for people who had been enslaved, they were basically stripped of their humanity and called property, literally called property. And so they were retelling stories and I retold their stories to make it more accurate, which is that these were human beings, right? Who were put into a collective system that was international, and they got caught up in that, and then they were trying to get their way out of it. And we're still here in the United States, and I think around the world, I think we're still digesting that history, right? And there's actually debates continuing to go on here in this country about how we understand that history. And so I've always been an advocate to really see all human beings as human beings and to work for a more equitable world, one that is more compassionate and accepting and inclusive. That's always been my MO. And so for me, retelling stories, the core of that for me is how do we honor and express our common humanity? And of course, our history is checkered, right? And we are evolving ourselves out of that. This is the really good news about this time, as we're seeing the breakdown of the old order, which Pluto has really been sending us that message for the last couple of years and is continuing to do so as he's going back between that 29th degree of Capricorn and the 0 degree of Aquarius and saying, okay, we're dropping away what we had when Capricorn was really the star, right? And this was like the old order, and we're moving into the new order and the new world that Aquarius represents. And so we're in this process, and we can see, the old order breaking down in all kinds of different ways. And if you don't see that, maybe you're not paying attention or you don't want to see it, which I get. It can be scary. The thing is that we want to come together and recognize that the story we've been living inside of, which I talk about in Feminine Sovereignty, my book, about the story of progress, which lends us to believe that we can have unending growth. But the truth is we can't. We live on a material planet that has a limited amount of resources. Now, some of that may change, but we are needing to look at that story of progress and appreciate all of the different benefits that it has provided us with. But then we also need to retell that story and say, yeah, but that came at a cost. It came at a cost to a lot of humanity, whether they were enslaved or whether they were became workers in the industrial world, right? Where for a long time was very hazardous, still can be very hazardous, right? And whether some people have been able to, climb the ladder, as it were, whereas others were not. Like, it's not just an unmitigated ability of individuals to be able to create success for themselves. We live inside of a social and economic and legal structure that has decided that some people have more access than others. So for me, we're in this moment where we can retell our history. We can be looking at this and saying, how do we be more honest with ourselves? Not to go into a lot of judgment and blame and that kind of thing, but just to be clear-eyed, right? To actually be clear-eyed and to be able to look at what has happened over the last, 100 years, 500 years, 5,000 years, however you want to look at it, right? Whatever size of context you want to bring in, but to just be more honest with ourselves about it. And the fact that, patriarchy and misogyny has been a baseline for a really long time, and we're evolving out of it, right? It still haunts us, but we're evolving out of it. So how can we tell stories that help us to evolve out of misogyny, for example, or out of racism, or out of xenophobia, or out of the ways that we pit ourselves against each other because we don't look the same, or we don't have the same religion? So many different reasons we pick to have conflict with each other. How can we retell stories of our common humanity? Because again, this is collective circuitry. And how can you do that inside of your own individual life? Because this is also influencing you and your personal history, right? How can you retell stories so that they're really empowering for you and for the highest good of all during this period of time? Because we live inside of the stories that we tell. And a lot of times we don't even know that we're telling these stories because they become just part of the way things are, right? It's just the way things are. And one of the things I love about human design is it helps us understand that no, things don't have to just be the way they are. They've actually been constructed, and we have been impacted and influenced by a lot of conditioning. And there's different ways to look at things, right? And so this is an explicit invitation to say, hey, take another look at the story you've been living inside of. Like, I know I lived inside of a story for a really long time about becoming an intellectual and becoming a professor. And that was my reality for a really long time. And then I had to retell the story because that reality wasn't giving me the life that I really wanted. It didn't give me the satisfaction and the fulfillment and the joy that I wanted also, along with being a professor. So I had to retell the story of who I am and what my trajectory of my life was so that it could make sense to me. So this is part of your opportunity during this transit when that sun's lighting up the 33 is to take a look at your own life and to see how what stories you've been operating inside of, and are they beneficial for you or not? Because a lot of times they're partially beneficial, right? But maybe not 100%, or maybe they were beneficial for a period of time, but they need to be revised. They need to be evolved, right? They need to become up current. So that's a great project for you to be doing while the sun is lighting up the gate 33. You're going to get an extra boost for this on a Sunday, August 4th, which is when there's a new moon in Leo. And the sun will still be in the 33, and then the moon will be in the 33. Because when we have a new moon, the sun and the earth are right next to each other in the mandala. And so, and in the sky. At least from our point of view, right? And so they're always in the same gate together. So the moon is going to join the sun in the gate 33 on August 4th. Now, this is the end of the sun transit because on the 5th is when it's going to move on. So you don't wait until this day to get started looking at what stories you want to retell. But know that if you're going to mull this over during the course of the week, by the time you get to Sunday, you could plant really seeds deeply into the understanding of the new story that you want to tell, because new moons are all about planting seeds. They're all about, this is a new day to begin. This is a new opportunity. And fortunately, we always have a new opportunity to begin, right? We do that with every day. We have that with every new moon. We have it with every season and so on. So this is your opportunity. My suggestion would be that you're really kind of leaning into what stories do you want to retell and kind of unpack it for yourself. Like, go deep with this one. This can really change your life when you retell the story that you've been living inside of. Do some journaling about it, maybe some drawing, talk to some trusted friends about it. You guys could have a dialogue about that. And then on Sunday, you can kind of put together the new vision that you have, the new story that you want to be living inside of, and really kind of plant those seeds during that new moon. In addition to the moon being in the gate 33, along with the sun, it's also in Leo. So let's just talk about Leo for a minute, because Leo is really, well, we know, right? The king of the forest, right? The lion. And so there's definite sovereignty energy that's here with this Leo full moon. There's definite energy of courage because, the lion absolutely brings courage, but the lion is also very relaxed. Like the lion spends most of his time or her time sitting or sleeping, right? And then they get up and they get active, and if they need to go get food or whatever it is that they might be doing, but they spend a lot of time being regal. And so as we are building our sovereignty, Leo is a great boost for that, right? And so it's wonderful when you're leaning into this new moon in Leo that you're really capturing this sense of your own personal sovereignty, as well as tapping into a larger sense about how we are all evolving ourselves into this sense of sovereignty, where we're no longer really looking outside of ourselves to authority figures to tell us who we are, what we should do, what's right, what's wrong, what's success, what's failure, all of that, right? We're tuning away from that, and we're tuning in to our own inner guidance and our own brilliance, right? And our own ability to receive input from superconsciousness, right? And this is a key aspect of sovereignty, and that I talk about in my book, is that ability to develop that spiritual connection so that we aren't looking outside ourselves so much. We're really sourcing for wisdom inside of us. And Leo definitely represents that to some degree. So as you're leaning into this new story that you're creating for yourself, that you're going to be planting seeds for, on this day, the new moon, right, is to be thinking about, well, how can I become more sovereign in my life by telling a new story? How can I make myself the center of the story? How can I recognize that whatever the situation is that I've been through, whatever the circumstances, whatever the challenges I've had, that I'm kind of the star of the show, right? Leo likes to be the star of the show. My dad was a Leo. So, how can I be really the star of my own story, of my own life? And how can I be the star of a story where I'm retelling the history of the past in a way that makes it more beneficial for me and more beneficial for everyone? So that's a great thing to lean into also. And then during this transit, the Earth is going to move into the gate 19, which is tribal circuitry, and it is on the root center. So we're moving from the Earth in the gate 41, which is fantasy or imagination, which is also in the root center, which is also in the sensing circuit. And then we're going to be moving into tribal circuitry. And this is all about relationship. Tribal circuitry in general is about relationship, and the 19 really is. It's known as wanting in traditional human design or attunement in quantum human design. And it is part of the channel that has to do with partnership. And so the 19 is a highly, highly sensitive gate. People who have this defined in their chart are often highly sensitive people. And that can be a great attribute when you know how to manage it. It can also be really challenging when you don't, because you get overwhelmed easily a lot of the time. So what we want to do with that 19 is really honor its sensitivity and honor its ability to kind of tune into, so its mate is the 49. And the 49 is all about partnership. Is it good to be in it? Is it not good to be in it? What do we do with that, right? Are we creating partnership in ways that holds to our values, where we all get to show up as our best selves? Right. And then that 19 really is attuning to and sussing out, is the intimacy of this channel appropriate right now? And being a highly sensitive person, you can tune into that. And even like, I don't have this defined in my chart, but I will be feeling it during this transit, like feeling into my sensitivity to see, is this relationship a good relationship for me? Now, this is in the commerce circuit of the tribal circuit. So in that sense, it's not necessarily family, like it's not necessarily a beloved one, whether that's a partner or child or a sibling or a parent or something like that, although it could be. It could also be other people in your life, but it's definitely about relationship. And so using this time to be kind of grounding yourself and grounding your sensitivity, honoring your sensitivity, and attuning to what really feels right to you, what's really going to be supporting you. And is it something that you want to invest your energy into, and bringing up the quality of discernment so that you can have a strong sense of whether or not this is something you want to engage in or not. So as you ground yourself in this deep sensitivity that has the ability to discern, right? You're going to ground yourself in that as you're tuning into, how do I want to retell? How do I want to upgrade? How do I want to reframe, reformulate the stories that I live inside of so that they are more beneficial for me, more beneficial for all? And this is a big assignment. Okay, let's just acknowledge that. That is a big assignment. And like I said, I use it very much in writing Feminine Sovereignty, because feminine sovereignty has a lot in it that is about us being able to digest the context that we're living in, looking at the history of where we've been in such a way that we can step up and step forward as sovereign beings to really be helping to heal our world, because healing our world is the foundation that we need in order to be able to create this new world that we're longing for, where we have more inclusivity and more benefits for all, and where we really just kind of recognize unity consciousness, that we're actually all in this together and we're all really connected. So for me, those are kind of some of the core tenets of this new world. And so allowing your sensitivity to help you open up to our broader connection to all of humanity and to also to the living world, all of the different species that we share this earth with, right? Doing all of that and using that to infuse and upgrade our stories. And I want to let you know that the Sovereign Sisterhood, which is a new level of membership inside of my Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center, is opening on August 1st. And for early adopters who want to jump in and see what it's like and help to jumpstart this community, I am giving a special offer to those people. And I invite you to come and check out. I'm going to do a couple of different events this week. I hope that you're on my email list so that you'll know about it. I will also be announcing these inside of the Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center, so you can come and join us there. The link will be down below. And I'll be sharing a lot more about what the Sovereign Sisterhood is about, who it's right for, and how you can contribute and help to co-create really this container of support, this container of purpose and practice and passion for us to be navigating the challenges in our world today and to be supporting each other with deep camaraderie, and to have some fun. Because, growth and evolution and human design don't always feel so fun, right? Sometimes it starts to feel kind of heavy. So we're going to make sure to have some fun while we're doing that. So it opens on August 1st, and people who register on August 1st are going to get 1 month free. So come and make sure that you're connected to me somehow so that you get the information about that if you are interested. And I hope to see you then. All right. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.